Hello, 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 and welcome to Chapter 5, Section 6. Welcome back. This is going to be on the coordinate plane. I know we've talked about that before this year, but we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. This is going to start on textbook page 395 and go through textbook page 398. Just as usual, you want to make sure that you have your pencil with your eraser. This is just a quick reminder that you should not be doing any of the on your own problems or the try it problems in anything other than regular pencil with eraser. No pen, no colored pencil, none of that. So your colored pencil is going to be used for the notes that I give you directly or the examples that I give you directly, not the ones you do on your own, and everything needs to be written right there in your textbook. It might be a good idea for you to have headphones on so that you can focus and use your listening ears and your brain. On textbook page 395, you see that we've got a map here, and it says the coordinate plane at the top. Then it says, scan the lesson and list 2 real-world scenarios where you would use the coordinate plane. So I've listed 2 here. It says to find a location on a grid and to describe an object's location. So the next thing that we're going to look at is going to be the real-world link. You can see it says the map shows the layout of a small town. The locations of buildings are described in respect to the town hall. So I want you to add the word origin there because notice that town hall is at 0, 0. That's called the origin. Then it says each unit on the grid represents 1 block. Describe the location of the barbershop in relation to the town hall. So what we need to do is locate the barbershop, and I've circled it there in turquoise. It's to the right. And notice the compass rose at the bottom. It's got the north, west, south, and east sign on it. So you want to take a look at that. And because you're going to the right, that's going to be east. And because you are going to count the blocks, you'll see that that is going to be, you'll write the barbershop is 5 blocks east of town hall. So you want to make sure that you write that in a complete sentence, that it looks like that. And remember, we got there because we went hop, hop, hop 5 times to the right. The next question says, what building is located 7 blocks east and 5 blocks north of Town Hall? So 7 blocks east would be 7 blocks to the right, and 5 blocks north would be 5 hops up. So now we're going to go ahead and do that, and we see that the firehouse is actually what is located 7 blocks east and 5 blocks north of Town Hall. So then I'm going to erase everything on my diagram so that we can start the next question fresh. We have Violetta is at the library. Describe how many blocks and in what direction she would travel to get to the supermarket. So you first want to locate the library. You can see that I've used an orange pen here to do just that. I went ahead and put a dot on the library. Then you want to locate the supermarket. Notice the supermarket is down and to the right a little bit. Then you're going to count how many hops. You can see that I've done 1, 2, 3 hops down, which is going to be south. So we're going to write 2 blocks south. And then you'll see that I'm going to go ahead and do hop, 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 which is 3 blocks. Whoops, I went a little too far. Okay, so hopefully now you can see it. Now I went 3 blocks east. So hopefully you're going to be able to see me go 1, 2, 3 blocks east. And hopefully that's before I go ahead and erase. So that's where we get the 2 blocks south and 3 blocks east. So now what you're going to look at is you're going to look at Town Hall and the bank are both located on the same vertical line. Remember, vertical means up and down, like the vertical blinds in the house. The number 0 represents the location of Town Hall on the number line. What number represents the location of the bank? So if you hop up 4 spaces, you'll notice that you are at the bank. So the number that represents the location of the bank is going to be 4. So you just want to write 4 right there. So now we're going to go ahead and make our way over here to textbook page 396, and you should be looking at identify points and ordered pairs. And right here at the top it says identify points in ordered pairs. A coordinate plane is formed when the x-axis and the y-axis intersect at their 0 point. Now remember again that 0 point is called the origin. The axes separate the coordinate plane into 4 regions called quadrants. So each one of these different chunks, each one of these different 4 squares you can look at is going to be a different quadrant. Now one thing to mention, and I would like you to add a little note right here, one thing that's important to mention is that the quadrants are numbered starting right here in quadrant 1. And that's the all positive quadrant. So I want you to notice, if you look to the right, quadrant 1 is all positive. So both figures are positive. So when you have both numbers in your ordered pair that are positive, you know that point is going to end up in quadrant 1. So I should be able at some point very soon to give you an ordered pair, and you should be able to tell me without graphing it which quadrant it will land in. So Excuse me. So now, that's quadrant 1, and let me go ahead and erase that a little bit just so that we can still see it. So you have quadrant 1 here on the right-hand side in the top right corner, and it's important to note that this goes in like the shape of a C, okay? So you're going to write stop here, and you'll write start up here. Go ahead and add that. That way you remember the direction in which they're numbered. So now you have quadrant 2. I'm going to change pen colors here. I've got quadrant 2 right here. Notice that those coordinates, or those ordered pairs rather, the X is going to be negative and the Y is going to be positive, like you can see over here on the right hand side. Again, this is a very important section for you to have your colored pencils out. So you can see that the orange is going to be positive, positive. The pink is going to be negative, positive, so that's where all those numbers there are going to fall. Then you'll have, I'm going to switch over to green now. You have quadrant 3, which will be all of your negative numbers. So when you have an ordered pair that has 2 negative numbers, that's going to end up in quadrant 3, which is right down there in the bottom left. And then the last one is going to be quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is going to be positive and negative. Whoops. So we're going to go ahead and put a box around that. And we'll put a blue box right here around quadrant 4. So you have a positive X value and you have a negative Y value. So again, this would be a nice area for you to be using your colored pencils. And you just want to try and commit this to memory, what type of numbers for your ordered pair you'll find in each quadrant. So now you're looking at example 1. It says identify the ordered pair that names point C, then identify the quadrant in which it is located. So first we want to look for point C, so I'd like you to go ahead and put a colored circle around C. And notice that they want you to, so the ordered pair for that is going to be, remember we have to count over, you can see this way. So we see that that's 1.5 to the right, so that's going to be our X coordinate. And then it is 1 up. So that's going to be our Y coordinate. So we have 1.5 and 1, which is right here. So you want to go ahead and write that again, 1 and 1/2, comma, 1. That's how we would write that ordered pair. Notice that both of these numbers are positive. So we know, without even looking at the graph, but we can look at the graph, we know that this is going to end up in quadrant 1 because both numbers are positive. So even though they wrote it for you, you just want to go ahead and make sure that you add quadrant 1 down there. So I should see in your own writing the things that I've written on this here. One last thing to note, you'll see the ordered pairs note here, and it says a point located on the x-axis will have a y coordinate of 0, and a point located on the y-axis will have an x coordinate of 0. Points located on an axis are not in any quadrant. Ooh, that's an important test question. So I'm going to repeat that again. Points located on the axis are not located in, or are not in any quadrant. So if I asked you to name the quadrant that a specific point was in, and it was like 0, 4, you would say none, because there is no quadrant because it's on one of the axes. So you want to add a note at the bottom, or off to the side rather, and it's basically just saying the same thing. I just wanted to make sure that you add a note. Points located on the x or y axis are not in any quadrant. So what that means, I'm going to go ahead and erase over here where I have this pink stuff. So what that means is if a point is located anywhere on this line or on this line, they are not considered in any quadrant. So if I asked you where this point right here was located, which quadrant, you would say none. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at example 2. It says identify the point located at -1.5, -1. So that means we're going to go back from the origin. We always start at the origin to -1.5, which is going to be right here. So right where I made that green dot. And then we need to go down to -1. So that's going to be this green dot right here. So that point is located, that is point B, and it is in quadrant 3. Okay, so you just want to remember, and actually I wrote it as a 3. Here we go. Quadrant 3. That's how it should be written as well. They use Roman numerals, so you should too. Now you want to look at textbook page 397. At the top, we're going to have some on your own problems. So we want you to refer to example 1 and identify the ordered pair that names point A, then identify the quadrant in which it is located. So I went ahead and added that here on the screen. So you want to pause your video now, and you want to identify the ordered pair and also the quadrant. So this part will have 2 answers. All right, welcome back. So hopefully you first started by identifying point A, which I'm going to now make in pink, and then you identify the ordered pair. Remember, you have to run along the x-axis first, so like Superman has to run before he can fly. That means you're going to have to go back all the way till you get to this -1. So we know the first part of our ordered pair is going to be -1. And then you need to go up. So that means that's going to be a positive number. And we're going to go up to 1.5. So, whoops, so that will be 1 1/2. So your ordered pair should be -1, positive 1 1/2. And this will be in quadrant, it will be located in quadrant 2. Okay, so quadrant 2, you need to have that as your next piece. Quadrant 2. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and look at B. It says refer to example 1, so we still have example 1 up here. Identify the point located at 1, -2. So that means we're going to go ahead, I'm going to change over to pink now. That means we're going to go to the right 1, so that's going to be right here, but I'm going to erase that dot because that's not where we're going to end up. But sorry, I'm not sure where it stopped recording, but we're going to go to the right 1, and then we're going to go down, because it's negative, we're going to go down 2. Which would be right here, where I just drew that pink dot. And so that's going to be point E. So for your answer here, you should have E. And then it'll say, then identify the quadrant in which it is located. So remember, this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. So that means that our point is located in quadrant 4. So you just want to go ahead and write that, like I've done here. So quadrant 4 and E. All right, on this next piece, you're going to see that it says reflections on the coordinate plane. Excuse me, it says you can use what you know about number lines and opposites to compare locations on the coordinate plane. Consider the number line and coordinate plane below. The number line shows that -4 and 4 are opposites. So we know that -4 and 4 are opposites. And then it says the coordinate plane shows that the points -4, 0 and +4, 0 are the same distance from the y-axis in opposite directions. So let's go ahead and look at that here. I'm going to change to orange. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see that they're the same distance from the y-axis. So they are So what it says is, so they are reflected, that's a big important word there, across the y-axis. Notice the y-coordinates did not change and the x-coordinates are opposites. So we're going to want to write a little note here. So just go ahead and write reflected on your paper, and then off to the side somewhere is fine. And you just want to think about reflecting back as if you fold that paper in half, you know, basically hot dog style. So not hamburger style, hot dog style. So from right to left, you fold it in half. The dot will be on the same side. So it's reflected, kind of like a mirror. Okay. So what they want you to also notice, mirror. What they also want you to notice is that notice the y coordinates did not change. So y stays the same. So we'll just write y, same. And then we're going to write that the x-coordinate is opposite. So that's how you know when a point is reflected. So y stays the same and x is opposite. So let's go ahead and check out some problems that have to do with reflection. So it says, name the ordered pair that is a reflection, there's that word reflection again, of -3, +2. So if you look at -3, +2, then you want to think, okay, well, the -3 should stay the same, because remember, the x-coordinate has to stay the same. So let's write that note again. So the x-coordinate stays the same, so then that means the x-coordinate would still have to be -3. And then the 2, which is the y-coordinate, has to be opposite. So what's the opposite of 2? The opposite of 2 is going to be -2. So as you can see here, I also wrote a little example. You can see that, hopefully you can see that I've written -3 stays a -3 still, and the 2 becomes a -2. So you want to make sure that that note of yours is correct here so that you can see how to identify the point that is reflected. So now we're going to go ahead and try some on your own. I want you to pause the video now. Actually, not now. I want you to first plot the point 1, -4. Then pause the video, and I want you to write the reflection. So I want you to both plot it, and I want you to write the ordered pair, please. All right, great. Welcome back. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to use my pink so that I can start with the first ordered pair. So the first ordered pair says 1, so I'm going to go to the right 1 because that's my positive 1. And then it says -4, so I'm going to go right 1, and I'm going to go down 4, which is going to be right here. So that's my first point. Now we need to know which one is a reflection of the point across the x-axis. So notice too, though, this is very important, and I didn't mention this in the previous slide. It says it's a reflection across the x-axis. Let me go back really quickly, because notice this says name the ordered pair that is a reflection across the x-axis. Again, there's that x-axis. That's how you know you're going to fold the paper down the x. So see the x right there? That's how you know you're going to fold the paper in half, like up and down. Okay, so back here they want to know what the point is that is a reflection across the x-axis. Because remember, we could have a reflection across the y-axis as well. The y-axis would be right here, but we're not going to do that, so I'm going to erase that. But now with the reflection across the x-axis means that the x value will stay the same. So that means our x value is going to stay 1. And then our y value, remember, is going to be the opposite. So what's the opposite of -4? That's going to be +4. So now we want to plot that point. So we've got over 1 and up 4. So now, as you can see, that is the reflection right there. So you need to make sure that you've plotted the point and you've also named the ordered pair. Okay, for D, you should have gone back 2 and up 5. So that would be right here. And then you want to think about the ordered pair that would be the reflection across the x-axis. You always want to make sure of which axis you're reflecting across. So across the x-axis, that means the -2 stays the same. And now you're going to have the opposite of 5, which is -5. So now we're going to go back 2, and we're going to go down 5 this time instead of up 5. So that is my reflection there. And last but not least, we have originally -3 and -1. And so let's go ahead and plot that. We've got back 3 and down 1, which would be right here. Now I'm going to change to the blue. I'm going to write my ordered pair first, because that's what you need to be doing, writing your ordered pair first, because you need to literally think to yourself, okay, -3 is going to stay the same, and then -1 becomes +1. So even without a graph, you should be able to plot the point, and you should be able to name the point without a graph. So I do want the graph to be here. You can go ahead and just add a sketch of the graph, but I also want you to be able to name the ordered pair without the graph. So -3, and we have +1 now. So we're going to go back 3, and now we're going to go up 1. And again, notice that's reflected across the x-axis, meaning if you folded the paper where I just drew the blue line, then you would get the same point in the same place. So now we're going to look at textbook page 398, and it says Kendall is building a square fence. She places fence posts at the locations indicated on the grid. What is the location of the post that reflects, there's that word reflects, -4, 4 across the y-axis? Well, here we go. That's why it's important. Notice it says y-axis. So when it's reflecting across the y-axis, that means we're going to be reflecting across that line right there. So I'm going to erase that so that we can still work from that, but I wanted you to see that's what that means. So to reflect across the y-axis, you're going to keep the y coordinate the same and use the opposite of the x. So you're going to focus that, and you're going to take this note here. All right, so you can see here that I've added the note, reflect across y-axis, okay? So what that means is these are the rules when you're reflecting across the y-axis. All right, so as you can see, I went ahead and wrote the rules here for you for reflecting across the y-axis. So for this one, it says the x coordinate is opposite and the y coordinate stays the same. So the way you can remember this is whatever axis it's asking you to reflect the point on, that means that that's the coordinate that stays the same. So since this is asking you to reflect the y-axis for the ordered pair -4, 4, I'm going to first go ahead and plot -4, 4. So we've got -4, which means we're going to go back 4, and +4, which means I'm going to go ahead and draw my point here. Notice I made it really big and pink. So now I'm going to talk about the point that is reflected across the y-axis. Now remember, the y-axis is going to be this right here, okay? So now the point that's going to be reflected, remember we need the opposite of the x. So the opposite of the x, currently we have -4. So now we're going to need +4. So we're going to go +4 to the right, and then the y stays the same, which makes it now +4 here. So now that point is going to be right here, okay? So the new ordered pair is going to look like this. So notice now I've written the original ordered pair was negative 4, 4, and then I've written the reflected across the y-axis pair, and let me just make this look a little more normal, is going to be positive 4, 4. Because remember, we kept this guy the same. Let me underline it in blue for you. We kept this guy the same, and then we took the opposite of this guy here, okay? And that's because we're reflecting it across the y-axis. So whatever the axis is that you're reflecting it across is going to be the one that you keep that coordinate the same. So go ahead and try F on your own by yourself. All right, so first you should have plotted negative 4, 4. So we go negative 4, which is back 4, and down 4, which is going to give us this point right here. That's our negative 4, 4. I'm sorry, negative 4, negative 4. What is the location of the post that reflects negative 4 across the y-axis? Now remember, the y-axis is this one right here. Okay, so we're going to be reflecting it across the y, which is going to be to the right, basically. So now our original point was negative 4, 4, so I need you to write off to the side somewhere negative 4, sorry about that. And then I'm going to write reflect across y, so I would like you to do the same thing. And when you're reflecting across y, that means that the y is the one that stays the same. So negative 4 in the back here will stay the same, but that means that you take the opposite of negative 4 in the front on that x side. So that means the negative 4 in the front now becomes a positive 4. Because remember, this is your x and this is your y, this is your x and this is your y. So you just want to remember, let me erase that to make it look like an x again. So you just want to remember that that's how you set it up when you are reflecting across the y-axis. So now let's go ahead and plot that point. Positive 4, which is going to go to the right 4, and then negative 4, which is going to be down 4. So we've got this point right, right here that I'm going to make in blue, okay? So now you can see the point that's reflected across the across the y-axis. So then it says to name that pair, so it's going to be 4, negative 4, okay? All right. So now we are all finished. You want to go ahead and take a look at textbook page 398, numbers 1 through 4. You just need to make sure that you're doing A and B on 4, and you want to make sure that you're doing all the work there on 1, 2, and 3. So by the work, I just mean identify the ordered pair and the coordinate. Don't forget you have 2 different pieces there. So identifying the ordered pair, and then also you're going to identify the coordinate. So those are 2-part questions right up there. And again, you want to do numbers 1 through 4, and check this out. I see you have some graph paper. You must be plotting something. Ha ha ha, that's my funny for the day. See you in class.